Where can you find the meaning of life? That sounds like a pretty big question, right? Oddly enough, it's a lot easier than you think. You can find the meaning of life on page 698 in your dictionary, somewhere between lie and lifeboat. It's right there. You don't even have to look very far. It's right there. You can see the whole definition. Come on. I know we haven't been in church 2 weeks, but a little chuckle would help right now. Thank you. Some people have said that maybe the meaning of life is found in singing the Hokey Pokey, because that's what it's all about. A little better. We're building. I think it was mathematician Laszlo Holyfeld that once said that strategic calculations show that bacon is the meaning of life, which of course we know is actually theoretically, quantum physically true. Bacon, yeah. Research report published its results this past week. It was out of the University of Missouri, and the research project focused on trying to look at the meaning of life and meaning in life with the concept of hope. One article noted how the whole thing played out, and the project involved 2,300 people, more than 2,300 people from diverse backgrounds, and they looked and analyzed at their emotions in life. They looked at things like amusement and contentment, excitement, happiness, among other things. But what they found was the greatest predictor of people finding meaning in life was through hope. Hope was the one thing that would move people to enjoy and have meaning in life. In 2024, 2 years ago, for the entire year, we had a theme for all of the messages. And the theme was having confidence in God. So all the sermons 2 years ago for the whole year were centered on having confidence in God. And one of the reasons we did that is because it was a year where it seemed like things were out of control with fear and frustration over political elections. Well, it's 2 years later, it's 2026, and the words of King Solomon from 3,000 years ago still ring true. There is nothing new under the sun, right? From political elections to wars in different parts of the world to arguing over the halftime show at Super Bowl. There's still plenty of chaos all in the world. So what about this year? What could we use in the middle of the chaos of this year, the middle of the chaos of these days? Well, the one thing I think we could use a lot of is exactly what that report found, and that's hope. What kind of hope? Well, this year we are going to spend a lot of time pursuing one unique example, one unique aspect of hope, and that is strategically finding hope in God. And the desire in this pursuit is that we would be encouraged not just for the meaning of life, but that there would be encouragement for the meaning of your life. The first series that we're going to jump into at the beginning of the year here is called The Main Attraction. And the main attraction is going to be the character of God. So between now and Palm Sunday, we'll be looking at the character of God as the fuel of why we should hope in God. And today's message is called All There Is. And we're going to be looking at the beginning of God's book, the first book of the Bible, the first sentence of the Bible, Genesis 1:1. And it says this: "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The phrase in the Hebrew language here for "in the beginning," it means the absolute beginning. Not just the kickoff of a football game, not just question number 1 on a test, not just the first cookie in a sleeve of Fig Newtons, but this is the beginning of all beginnings. God in the beginning. Generally speaking, Christianity and science uniquely agree on particularly one thing, and that is that the world had a cause at the beginning, that it began somewhere. That the world as we know it, it exists now because something caused it. And as Christians, we would graciously and boldly say that that cause to the beginning of the world as we know it is God himself. That God was the one in the beginning that spoke the world into existence, because God is the only divine being and the only divine reality that has no boundaries on his character and his nature. That he exists to infinity and beyond. There's no beginning or end. He is always God. Now, not everybody in our zip code believes that, okay? And why? Well, there's a lot of different reasons why people either don't believe in God and or don't believe that God created the world as we know it. Here's just one insight that I think kind of covers most all of them. Aaron Armstrong became a Christian as an adult. In his own words, he said this: "I went from being a pretty average guy who didn't care if Jesus was real to coming to saving faith in Christ and then spending the last 2 decades helping other people come to saving faith in Christ." So he was an adult that didn't have much use for God being in the beginning. As an adult, he didn't have much use for God being the cause of the world, the creator of the heavens and the earth. But then he writes this: "People don't object to the biblical account of creation because it's ludicrous or intellectually dishonest to believe that a pre-existent God spoke all things into existence." In other words, it's not completely irrational to think this. I mean, every single part of your life right now was created by someone or through someone. Like, every rational human being knows that everything has to be created. It's not an irrational thought. So people don't not believe in God as creator, as the original cause, because they just think it's all crazy. This is what Aaron says: "They object because it tells us we are not autonomous beings. That we're not all powerful, that we're not in control." Now, that doesn't mean that if someone doesn't believe that God created the heavens and the earth in the beginning, that they hate God or they hate Christians. That's not what it means. It just means this: that every single person, including me and including you, inside of us, we like our rights. We want our rights. We want the right to do things the way we want to do things, to believe what we want to believe, to spend our money and our time and our weekends the way that we want to spend them. And the notion that there is someone who actually has some type of power or control over what we own all the time, that doesn't sit right. It's a weird thing. To think that there's someone who has this autonomous power over our now and over our future. Now, sure, we don't mind the present and historic realities of the greatness of American government. We do. We like it. But when you dig down really deep, even if we love that, we still don't want anyone telling us what to do at any time. That's our nature, Christian and non-Christian. So for many people, to acknowledge that there is this pre-existent God that created everything that exists, this pre-existent God that has control over all things, that is unsettling. That can rattle the heart and mind of a person. And if that pre-existent God is not your God, then it sure creates a lot of friction when it comes to real, lasting hope. Why? I've shared the story with you before about Alexander the Great, the powerful Greek king. And the story's told that he was going on a huge expedition, and before he left, he gave away all of his gold. And someone asked him, "Well, what did you keep for yourself?" And this is what he said: "The hope of greater and better things." So he gave away all of his gold, all of his worldly possessions, so to speak. They said, what'd you keep for yourself? Well, what I kept was hope. I kept the hope for greater and better things than all of this gold that I had. 2,000 years later, writing in London, Thomas Brooks, reflecting on that story of Alexander the Great, said this: a Christian will part with anything rather than with his hope. He knows that hope will keep the heart both from aching and breaking, from fainting and sinking. He knows that hope is a beam of God, a spark of glory, and that nothing shall extinguish it until the soul is filled with glory. For the Christian, there's absolutely nothing that can truly extinguish our hope until our heart is filled with glory. Hope and glory. We'll hear that tonight, probably, if you watch the Super Bowl. We'll hear it over the coming days in the Winter Olympics. You know, hope and glory, those are catchphrases for the Super Bowl, for Olympic glory, the hope of winning a medal. We will hear those things. But hope and glory are not just catchphrases for sports. Hope and glory are not just realities on this earth. True, real, lasting hope and glory, they exist in their fullest sense after you die, in the moment of death and after you die. Real hope, real glory never ends if you have saving faith in Jesus Christ. What does it mean to have saving faith in Jesus Christ? Apostle Paul was writing to some folks in a place called Corinth, and he said this, 1 Corinthians 15. For I handed down to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures. Saving faith in Jesus Christ is not just agreeing with those facts. Jesus was born, Jesus died, Jesus was raised again. It's not just agreeing with those facts. It's embracing those facts. It's taking those facts about Jesus and devoting your education and your job and your marriage and your family and your weekends and your vacation and everything else around those facts, and not just those facts, but devoting yourself and pursuing and committing your life to the person of those facts. And the person of those facts is Jesus. 2 weeks from now, it will be 29 years and 10 months since I committed myself and devoted myself to marriage. I did not commit and devote myself to the idea of marriage. Every 4 or 5 years, I don't rent a venue and bring in some sausage balls and some fruit and a chocolate fountain and marry another gal because I think marriage is a good thing that gives meaning to my life. No, I didn't commit myself to the idea of marriage. I committed myself to a person, period, exclamation point. Saving faith means you commit and devote yourself to the person of Jesus, period, exclamation point. It means that Jesus becomes the definition of who you are. So have you committed yourself to the person of the facts of saving faith, the person of the facts of the cross, of the empty tomb, of the ascension, and of eternity? Have you devoted yourself to Jesus? Do you have saving faith in Jesus? If so, great. If not, turn to him right now. And if you have turned to him, know this: the culmination of your faith, the culmination of this whole thing called Christianity, is hope and glory. The culmination is to be filled with glory, not with a Super Bowl trophy and not with a gold medal, but to be filled with glory forever and ever and ever, glory that will never stop and never end. What kind of glory? The kind of hope and glory found in the God of the beginning. The beginning God, the God who was in the beginning. And what if there is no God in the beginning? My friend Jim Albright was a lead accountant with a Fortune 500 company, and then God called him away to start sharing about the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ, to try to help people come to saving faith in Jesus. In his book, Everything Says Glory, he wrote this: naturalism and materialism, the philosophy that nothing exists except matter and its movements and its modifications, naturalism and materialism simply can't explain what each of us feels as we drink in the wonder we bump into every single day of our lives. Wonder. And he goes on. We wake up to a conscious mind brimming with feelings, hopes, dreams, and creative instincts. We wake up with a mind that just is engaging. My best friend that I grew up with, we joke that every morning as soon as we wake up, there's a song in our head. And I'm telling you, I've got an eclectic world of music I've listened to in the last 53 years. So you know what my song was this morning? Air Supply. That's right. Making love out of nothing at all. Yeah, that's how I began the day. Do you know how hard it is to overcome that being the first thing in your mind? I mean, you can't shake it. I mean, as soon as I got up, it wasn't glory and hope in heaven. It was making love. I was like, what in the world? This is crazy. I can't stop. But you know, the reality is when we wake up in the morning, that we are humans. We're engaged. There's something happening. We're not just blobs of dark matter. Jimmy goes on to say this: we hear Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and know our souls were designed to soar with joy. We watch a perfect moonrise and a breathtaking sunset, and we know we're made to not only recognize, but savor majestic beauty. We know that the meaning of life is not in a science lab. We know that. It doesn't mean that what's discovered in the science lab is not great and fantastic and helpful. But if, as scientists are saying right now, that 99% of all existing matter is dark matter, then what are we talking about here? We know when we wake up that there is something majestic in the universe that we're made for. We know it. He goes on, we look into the Milky Way on a clear night and we sense that infinity awaits. This is why Jimmy's my friend. First time I met him, I was like, that dude does not talk like me. I need those words. We look into the Milky Way on a clear night and we sense that infinity awaits. But what if there is no God in the beginning? What if there's no God at the beginning of the beginnings? Jimmy says this: if Genesis 1:1 is not true, then mankind is an inexplicable, meaningless, pathetic, doomed, cosmic accident, all dressed up with nowhere to go. There's some truth to that last part. We know what I mean. All dressed up and nowhere to go. Someone may say, well, you know, that just sounds like a bunch of Christian mumbo jumbo, just trying to threaten everybody to ignore science and believe God. No, I don't think so. I mean, does it sound crazy? I mean, really, does it sound crazy to your heart? Let me give you two definitions, two categories of life, so to speak. And I just want to think on these two definitions. Here's the first one. The amazing universe and all the science and wonder that make up the stars and the planets and the organisms that inhabit the universe were created and designed by a wonderful being with a great love for his creation. All right, that's definition number one. Here's number two. The amazing universe and all the science and wonder that make up the stars and the planets and the organisms that inhabit the universe all exploded into existence one day out of nothing, and all of this happened by chance. I mean, considering how every single thing in your life works, which definition sounds the most rational and reasonable? I mean, which one provides the most hope for your kids and your grandkids right now? An absolute accidental cause or an absolute affectionate cause? A cause fueled by an evolutionary blast of luck, or a cause fueled by an everlasting blaze of love? Which one makes the most sense to the deepest part of who we are? Bless my mom's heart. She's back in the hospital for the second time in 4 weeks. And I was walking out of the ER Friday night, and I said, Mom, I got to go off campus and get some stuff done for you in case you get transferred to a room and all this kind of stuff. And she said, that's fine, that's fine. And I said, well, I'll be back, hopefully in the next couple hours. And she goes, no, it's fine. You go. She goes, I'll be fine. And if I'm not, I'll be fine. And then she said, but I don't think it's my time yet. But a sentence like that, that's not blind faith. That's not. That's not blind faith in a blast of luck. That's blooming faith in the blaze of love. It's a confident hope in the only God that was in the beginning, because he's in everything. His existence is infinite. But what does God's infinite existence in the beginning have to do with you right now? I read something a few weeks ago. I want to read it very slowly, and hopefully our hearts and minds can just marinate on it just a bit. It goes like this. Wherever you turn on the planet and see a living person, you see an image of absolute reality. Absolute, eternal, ultimate, original reality. What you see is the Word God. You have never met an ordinary human being. There aren't any. They're all extraordinary. I don't care how degenerate they have become. When you look upon a human being, you're seeing something staggeringly extraordinary in the image of life. You are seeing an echo, a reflection of infinite, ultimate reality. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not an argument against science. That is a reflection for hope. Hope that doesn't die. Hope that is infinite and ultimate in its reality. In other words, ultimately, all he is in all there is. And all he is all we need. God, the autonomous, powerful, sovereign God, the infinite God, he is real, lasting,